Welcome to the channel. Today, we are not just talking about leadership. We are talking about courage. Look at this image. A decorated uniform. Medals earned through sacrifice. A face that represents authority, experience, and command. But the real question is not about rank. It is about voice. In rooms where strategies are made and futures are decided, something dangerous can happen. Silence. Not the silence of discipline, but the silence of hesitation, the silence of compliance, the silence where everyone agrees and no one questions. And that is why we ask, where have all the Manekshaws gone? We are living in an era of cautious leadership, careful statements, measured reactions, safe decisions. But leadership was never meant to be safe. When Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw stood firm before political pressure, he did not speak to please. He spoke to protect. He spoke to prepare. He spoke because lives depended on clarity, not comfort. Today, in many institutions, military or otherwise, we see something different. Passive agreement, calculated compliance, self-preservation disguised as discipline. So this video is not about nostalgia. It is about a search for moral courage, a search for leaders who value integrity over approval, a search for the spirit of Manekshaw in our time. And as we move forward, ask yourself one question. If you were in that room, would you have the courage to speak? Now imagine this. The operations room is calm. Uniforms are crisp. The screens glow confidently. The slides are polished. Everything looks under control. But clarity is fading. A young officer, just a junior, gathers the courage to speak. Sir, the ground reality does not match the official assessment. And then, silence. Not thoughtful silence. Uncomfortable silence. A throat is cleared. A spectacle is adjusted. Someone says, "Let us not exaggerate." And just like that, the truth is softened. The slide moves forward. The system moves on. Outside that room, the question echoes. Where are the leaders who speak plainly? Where is the courage that protects the nation, not the narrative? Because leadership is tested not when everything is smooth, but when truth is inconvenient. This is exactly why Manekshaw still matters. Not because he wore stars on his shoulders, but because he carried steel in his spine. When truth was risky, he spoke it. When pressure mounted, he stood firm. When lives were at stake, he chose preparation over politics. He was fearless before authority. But more importantly, he was protective of his soldiers. He understood something powerful. Leadership is not about being liked. It is about being right when it matters most. And that is why decades later, his name still represents courage. Not noise, not popularity. Courage. 1971. When one man's courage changed history. Before the war of 1971, pressure was intense. The political climate demanded immediate action. But Manekshaw did not rush. He assessed the weather. He assessed logistics. He assessed troop readiness. And when he said, "We are not ready yet," he risked everything, his career, his position, his future. But he chose a mission over his own comfort. He chose the soldiers over applause. And when the time was right, the result was one of the most decisive victories in modern military history. That is the lesson. Moral courage is not loud. It is steady. It waits. It prepares. It acts decisively when the moment demands it. The modern dilemma, the rise of passive leadership. Now look at today. Across institutions, military, corporate, government, a quiet pattern is emerging. Compliance over conviction. Promotion over principle. Silence over dissent. Leaders agree because it is safe. Questions are seen as threats. And loyalty becomes loyalty to individuals, not to ideals. But here is the truth. When systems reward silence, they weaken themselves. Because progress requires friction. Strength requires honest debate. And excellence requires leaders who are not afraid to disagree. The rise of passive leadership is not just a leadership problem. It is a cultural problem. And culture changes only when individuals decide, "I will not be silent when it matters." When seniors become risk-averse, institutions break. When senior leaders begin choosing self-preservation over principle, the damage does not stay at the top. It cascades. First, trust erodes. Soldiers stop believing that truth will be protected. Young officers stop believing that merit will be rewarded. Then operational excellence declines. Because when honesty is filtered, decisions are flawed. And finally, institutional credibility suffers. The world may still see uniforms and flags, but inside, the foundation is cracking. Here is the hard truth. The greatest danger to any institution is not incompetence. Incompetence can be corrected. The real danger is moral timidity, because when leaders know the truth and stay silent, that silence spreads, and silent decay is far more dangerous than visible failure. What are we really searching for? So what are we really searching for? Not another war hero, not another decorated general. We are searching for leaders who say no when necessary, leaders who absorb pressure from above, so that those below can function with clarity and courage, leaders who understand that doing the right thing may come at personal cost, and choose to pay it anyway, leaders who separate ambition from duty, because Manekshaw's greatness was not in his medals, it was in his spine, and that is what we are truly searching for. Moral courage versus career survival. Every leader faces a quiet battle. Moral courage or career survival. Passive leadership feels safe. It protects promotions. It avoids confrontation. It keeps doors open. But it slowly closes something far more important: integrity. High performers lose motivation. When compliance is rewarded over conviction, standards erode. Silence becomes culture. Excellence becomes ritual instead of reality. And here is the deeper question. Can moral courage be trained? Yes, through example, through mentorship, through institutions that reward honesty, not obedience. Because culture is not built by slogans. It is built by what leaders tolerate. The anatomy of institutional erosion. Institutions do not collapse overnight. They erode. Stage 1. Small compromises. Uncomfortable data is softened. Difficult conversations are postponed. Stage 2. Cultural normalization. Compliance becomes expected. Dissent becomes risky. Stage 3. Talent exits. The best people stop speaking. Then they stop trying. And eventually, they leave. Stage 4. Institutional hollowing. The organization still performs rituals of excellence, but the spirit behind them is gone. And here is the warning. Institutions do not fall suddenly. They decay quietly, one compromise meeting at a time. But here's the hope. Decay is not destiny. The cycle can be broken, and it begins the moment one leader decides, I will not stay silent. As we close, let us return to the question. For years, we have asked, where is the next Manekshaw? But that is the wrong question. The real question is this: who in this room is willing to risk comfort for integrity? Because leadership is not about waiting for heroes. It is about becoming responsible. Speak plainly, even when it is uncomfortable. This is not defiance. It is loyalty to the institution you serve. Shield your people. Leadership is not measured by how much pressure you pass down, but by how much you absorb from above. Choose spine over safety. Medals fade. Titles expire. Positions are temporary. But moral courage, that endures. History does not remember those who played safe. It remembers those who stood firm. So the next time you find yourself in a silent room, do not look around for another Manekshaw. Look within and ask yourself, will I speak? Because institutions change. The moment one leader decides to stand up, and that leader can be you.